another one in the summertime, like springtime or whatever.
No problem.
What's your concern with the Stephen Harper government? What brings you here today?
Well, I mean, it's a government that is not interested in fairness or justice for ordinary people in this country, and there's so many issues that's reflected in, whether it's around immigration, whether it's around taxation, whether it's around openness of government. Wherever you look, they're determined to look after a little group of their wealthy friends and to let other people pay the price for that.
What issue sort of is most pressing for you, do you think?
Well, I think right now the two that I would have trouble saying one was more than the other is the new Citizenship Act and the new Act on Voting, the changes to the Elections Canada.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit more about the Citizenship Act?
Well, the Citizenship Act is going to make it much more difficult for people to become Canadian citizens, it's absolutely going against a century of Canadian history that says we build this country by welcoming people from everywhere and helping them to get a good start. Instead, we're making it more and more difficult for people to make a commitment to Canada. It's just a foolish move.
And do you think the temporary foreign workers program plays into that?
Well, the temporary foreign worker program is what they're doing instead of letting people become citizens. They're turning us into a nation that brings people here in servitude as guest workers, but never gives them the chance to become citizens. And so we've got a Citizenship Act that's saying it's going to take years longer for immigrants to become citizens, and meanwhile we're bringing tens of thousands of foreign workers that we refuse to allow to become citizens just to fill labor market needs. It's cruel. Sorry?
Can you tell me more what your thoughts on the new Election Act is?
Well, I think that some of the changes that are being proposed are going to discourage people who already have the most trouble voting from being able to vote. And so what we know from study is that the best educated, wealthiest people tend to vote at a fairly high level. But a lot of other people that should be participating in democracy have more trouble voting, maybe around issues of having correct identification or ability to show who they really are, these kind of things. We've had a system that's been working fine. There's been very, very few demonstrated complaints or corruptions of it. And now suddenly they're taking away things that have let people vote, and they're not going to have the chance to be able to use those as ways to prove their chance to vote. So again, it's anti-democratic. It's cutting down on the participation of people in who their government's going to be rather than strengthening it.
Okay, and if you could send a message to Edmontonians about this march, what would you have to say?
I mean, at a very simple level, I'm impressed that people come out when it's 25 below to make a statement about the need for a better government in the country. And I would say to the rest of the people of Edmonton, think very, very carefully and critically about who you vote for in the next election and elect a government that you can have confidence will care about ordinary and struggling people, not about a few rich people.
Okay, thank you very much. So what brings you here today?
Well, basically, I'm fed up with a dysfunctional system, which basically only serves the needs of basically the elite, and that more and more basically does not represent the people that actually elect them, and then the blatant corruption that we now see with our conservative government, and they don't even seem to care. They don't even seem to care what public opinion is in regards to all the scandals and corruption, and are trying to make us believe that that's just the way government functions, when we don't have to look very far back, and we can see that governments function completely differently. They function in cooperation, they function with ethics, and to some degree represented what the majority of Canadians wanted or their values. Now we see none of those values. We've seen an about-face where actually the opposite of what the majority of Canadians' values is actually existing and playing out in our government. So
what sort of corruption do you find most disturbing?
Well, one is the voting corruption, like with the robocalls, and basically for the funding, passing funding back and forth between different members to hide the fact that they're spending more in certain electoral districts than they're supposed to. So there's that. So there's an undemocratic. They're not respecting the democratic process. The fact that the Prime Minister's office now is actually the largest organization within the government, and pretty much it makes all the decisions, and then they won't even allow proper time for debate for bills, like the Omnibus bills were put through, and the time was limited for the debate, so it didn't even give members of Parliament to critique or to try to amend the bills. So that entire process of amending bills and presenting it in Parliament, essentially Parliament has been made ineffectual. And so it's basically you only have the Prime Minister's office, which is making the decisions, and Parliament might as well not even exist under the current system. So that's unacceptable to me, and I don't see how anybody can find that acceptable if they truly knew what was going on.
Okay, and if you had a message to Edmontonians, what would it be?
I would say, vote with your heart, and examine closely what it is that you want to try to get out of your government, and don't let them just get away with doing whatever they want. Pay attention to what they're actually doing with our government.
Okay, thank you very much. You're
All the cuts to Canada Post that are being imposed by the Harper Government support is what brings me out here today, because I want Canadians to know what kind of services they're cutting, and this is all public service, and we have a right to know. We have a right to get consulted before they start cutting away some of our good services that we have been used to for 150 years or so. So this is not something that Canadians should be put against. This is going to cost so many jobs. 8,000 of jobs will be lost, and these are good paying jobs in our local communities. And only 25% of Canadians have community mailboxes, whereas the Canada Post is saying that 75%, so I'm not sure where they got their figures from, but Canadians also should know that Canada Post has made profits for the last 17 years out of the 18. So it's just like the list just goes on and on. There's so many things that...
So Canada Post has been profitable 17 of the last 18 years. Can you tell me about the 1 year that it wasn't profitable?
The 1 year that they lost money was the year when they paid the no equity suit that was done by the Public Service Alliance of Canada, where women were not paid equal wages. And this was going on for 28 years, and that was in 2012 that they had to end up paying $250 million for that lawsuit. And also that was the same year when the postal workers were locked out for 2 weeks. And that's when they use that year to determine the losses that Canada Post is going to have by 2020, which is projected as $1 billion by a think tank which did the report for Canada Post. And this think tank is the one that Canada Post CEO is also a member of.
Okay, and if you had a message to Edmontonians, what would you say?
I would just tell Edmontonians to just get in touch with their MPs or even contact Canada Post and let them know how they feel about being all these cutbacks that are going on in door-to-door mail delivery services.
Okay, thank you. You're here today.
Mostly that I'm just not happy with all the cuts to environmental programs that Harper's been doing the past few years.
So you're mostly concerned about the environment?
Yeah, that's my biggest concern.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Well, I know that there's valuable research programs that we've had for several years in the country, and then he's slowly kind of taking away funding. Like protecting the ozone, like measuring the ozone, how it's depleting, and I know that that's international research that the whole world was relying on, and that's been shut down, and water research as well.
Right, so you're generally concerned about Harper's cutting back on science and keeping the information away from people?
Yeah, and just, I feel like there's not very, like, democracy's kind of being dismantled.
Okay.
Because he's trying to keep people from speaking out about research that's happening, and also things with unions that's happening around the country, like taking them apart. And I think we're losing a lot of our rights as workers.
Okay.
And just not very informed as much as we have been.
If there's a message you could give to Edmontonians, what would it be?
I think to start paying more attention to what's happening and to be more informed if they can. Just paying more attention to what Harper's doing. Conservative government.
Thank you. You keep walking. You're out here today.
Just tired of all the corruption. Union workers, so we're fighting the TFW battle right now. And just sick of the worldwide corruption of all these big corporations taking over our countries. Kids are gonna have nothing left if we can keep it going this way. So we gotta do what we can, whenever we can.
So the TFW, that's a temporary foreign workers program?
There's another rally on Monday down at the Ledge.
What's your concern with the temporary foreign workers program?
They're coming in and taking all our jobs, making us work for a straight time, and, lower wages, getting rid of the middle class, with no work standards. They don't have to follow any rules. They just do what they feel that's necessary.
We want democracy!
And,
where is our democracy gone?
So the temporary foreign worker program is unfair to middle class Canadians who are lowering their job standards?
Exactly.
Do you think it's fair to the foreign workers that are coming in?
No.
Why not?
There's a middleman that takes half of their wages when they come in too. So it's a no-win situation either which way.
Okay.
Right. So, I come to these rallies and hopefully people see me here and know that they got to start coming out too so we get rid of this.
Right. But I'm not going to say anything. Okay?
You're not going to say anything?
Awesome, thanks, Mervyn.
No. We need water.
We need water?
The Omnibus bill affects water.
That's your biggest concern?
No.
No?